Welcome to the Zebra Pen, Either Way We HNC It podcast.
And as the delightfully royalty-free soundtrack fades away, it leaves me to say hello and welcome to the Zebra Pen. I am your host, Jed Brooks Lewis, and if this is your first time listening, thank you very much for giving us a try and wanting to learn a little bit more about officiating. If you're back after the first episode, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Scott was a fantastic guest, and I think I've got another one lined up for you today who is just as good. May as well just crack on into our guest then. So this is a little bit of a weird one for me because our guest today is also one of my closest officiating friends, someone I've known for 10 years now. He was my roommate in my first ever international tournament. He is a veteran of, and he'll correct me once I've introduced him if I'm wrong, I think 11 IFAF international tournaments. He hails from the beautiful city of Copenhagen, where I was last month. It is the wonderful Claes Scherwin Thalmann. Hi, Claes. How's it going?
Everything's good. Thank you for having me. And yeah, regarding Scott, then you can compare it with, I was the crew captain in Panama when I officiated with him. He got the men's final, I got the women's. So you can compare who's better.
It was a pretty solid crew there.
Yeah, we had a really great time.
Was I right there with 11
Actually,
IFAF
I don't
tournaments?
think I'm that many. I have 6 world championships, but I only think it's 3 European championships.
I'm giving you experience you don't deserve then. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Talk about your background in flag football, your officiating career, how we got to where we are right now.
I started playing flag football back in a rookie tournament back in 2005 with some guys I met in a tackle club in 2004. That started it all, and then I was on my first officiating clinic in 2006. I'm pretty sure the instructor was a guy called Magnus. We will probably talk about him also later. And I've been playing and officiating regularly since, and been at all world championships since 2012 in Gothenburg. Yeah, that was my first international tournament, and then I've been hanging along and having fun playing, officiating, and organizing flag football.
So you got a little bit of that playing background as well. Do you think that is useful in your officiating as well? Do you think having that experience playing, perhaps not quite to, and excuse me for saying it, perhaps not quite to the high level that you've officiated at, but do you think that having that background playing does make for a better
definitely
official?
Helps. I know the kind of the players, what they're thinking, and I've also seen plays in big games being executed, which I had in practice multiple years before, but never had the opportunity to execute. So it gives a calmness and an understanding that's really useful, and also knowing the rules and the issues from two sides is beneficial.
Yeah, and how players try to cheat as well.
How to take advantages can be good.
Taking advantages. Yeah, that's probably a more PC way kind of phrasing it. So as I mentioned, kind of in the introduction, you're from Denmark, which is very much or at least in the past, was one of the major powers of European flag football. They're perhaps in a little bit of a transition period, let's say, at the moment. Can you talk a little bit about the flag scene in Denmark, how that's developed, where it's going, what you feel about it, both specifically from an officiating perspective and also more broadly just in terms of the overall what's going on?
We had a big growth back in 2006 and the remaining of that decade. When I started was 25 teams or something around that in the eastern part of Denmark, and I think it was 12 teams in the western part, and it actually increased in 2010 or 11. I believe there were 50 teams in Denmark, and then it started decreasing from 2011 or 12 down to 6 teams, I believe it was in 2020, and it was not because of Corona. It was just the development, and now we are back on track, and we have 17 teams competing this spring. That's the club side part of the development, and also tells why the Danish men lost the throne in after 2021, or was it 22, the European Championship, but winning from 2009.
2019 was the last win, and then we obviously had a few years off, and then we were back in Limerick in 2023, and it was
So
23 back then. That was when we had the Austrians and Germans slugging it out at the top in the men's division, of course. Yeah, it's always interesting because I think as long as I've been involved in footballing, you know, our careers very much a parallel. I think you're, probably just 3 years ahead of me, given, your first tournament was 2012 and mine was 2015. So we've very much gone in parallel, haven't we? And it's interesting because, for the European Championship, all the European Championships that I worked at, Denmark were very much the top dogs, and they were the team to beat. And you can tell, given that you had 50 teams previously, that probably makes sense as to why they were so good. They had such a big pool, and that negative growth almost is perhaps why the last couple of tournaments has been a little bit more of a struggle. But it's good to know that things are rebounding. I think having the more strong teams we have at that, or the really top tier elite teams at these European Championships, at World Championships, is just all the better for the sport as well. So you mentioned when you were introducing yourself, administration and organization. You are one of the organizers for the truly wonderful Copenhagen Bowl, which is a fantastic tournament. I've been 2 years in a row now. It's really well organized. Facilities are great. Can you tell us a little bit? Firstly, just talk generally maybe about the tournament, and then we can get a little bit more into the exciting stuff that you've been been working on.
Yes, tournament actually started by my friend Martin Andersen, actually the guy I made my first interception against back in 2006. So we have been opponents for almost 20 years now. But I got in the organizing team in 19 after it was created by having a Swedish national team that needed some practice. So they came down and played the best Danish teams and got beaten badly. And that was how the tournament started, and had the foundation that it was actually some Swedish teams coming down playing a Danish weekend tournament. And then, it had been growing, especially the last 7 years, having teams coming in, especially helping World of Wanderers have been a regular guest.
It's now, it's one of the biggest tournaments in Europe now, isn't it? It's up with the likes of Big Bowl. I mean, how many teams did we have there this year? It would have, was it 70 or something?
74 teams.
I think it was 74 teams, yeah, exactly, across the Open Elite, Leisure, and the women's division as well. So it's a big tournament. It's fantastic event to be a part of. As someone who's been a couple of years now, I guess the exciting bit, and your baby almost, is the officiating clinic that gets organized alongside the tournament now. Could you tell us a little bit about where the idea for that came around, why you wanted to organize a clinic to go alongside the tournament?
Just as you, I've been privileged to be in the IFAF flow from when the first clinic was in the IFAF system at the Euros 2015. It continued in 16, 17, 18. I don't think we had much clinic in 19 then, but having that background that, okay, we had a closed system where you had to be selected to go to the IFAF international tournaments to get on a clinic where you could develop internationally. That should be possible for all officials, because of course it helps building the top, but we also there can be different reasons for not getting to that level of officiating the international teams. I know I had difficulties getting to tournaments in the beginning because there were so many great Danish officials. But in 2012, I was participating as a local official in Sweden. 14 and 16, I was a backup coming in with the short notice to officiate. So I've been lucky to be on the train, if you call it that, where you could get this development. It was an opportunity with organizing Copenhagen Bowl as well, that we have a perfect venue where the best European players and some American players also come by. So you have the best teams playing each other. So you get games on the highest level. And you also need to be tested on this part because you can make as much practice by moving around, having some guys having fun playing like we had in 15 and 16, where officials were acting as players when we had the clinic, but having a real game with high intensity. It just tests you extra and you get the better feeling of how to control a game. And it was a perfect atmosphere to bring it on. And yeah, we can come back to Magnus. He had the dream from early on, and I've been parallel with him through, again, it will be only 18 years, but having talks with him, develop Danish officials. It was just, he had a dream. It was also him creating the international clinic at the IFF tournaments. And it was just like, in 23, I saw like, we actually have the opportunity. I have the time to try to set it up. And then, yeah, with some difficulties, we have succeeded now in having 2 editions. So that's long story short.
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. The quality of the teams you get there now. We have so many national teams, or maybe national teams in disguise, and it's a really good opportunity for people to get exposed to kind of intensity of football and have to officiate in that environment, which, yeah, all right, it's not quite exactly the same as an IFAF tournament, but it's getting, almost as close as you can when you've got, some of these national teams that were there and whatnot. It's a really good opportunity. And, I think you described it really well there, where you called it a little bit of perhaps a closed system initially, because people need to get experience working flag at that highest level. But the only way you get to work flag at that highest level is with experience of working it. And it's almost like a catch-22 where you need the experience, but you need to be good at it and develop as an official, but then you need that experience to be selected to actually go and do the games, isn't it? So I think it's a really good opportunity to give exposure to that environment, to officials over all sorts of levels. And, I think that's the beautiful thing about this clinic, is you get people who are really, really experienced, been doing it for years. You get people who are right at the start of their officiating journey as well. And everyone can learn something from it, can't they? Because you have, however, 5 or 6 supervisors there who are all watching games and giving feedback during the tournament. You obviously have the clinic beforehand as well. And it's just a really good environment for officials to be learning whatever level they're at, isn't it?
Having so many supervisors, I can compare it with the tournaments we have participated in. It was only in Pinto, I recall, where we had similar amount of games being supervised, where we got a lot of feedback. Else it has been really, not because the supervisors didn't want to give feedback, but a supervisor can only be on one field at a time. Sometimes there's also other stuff to look at, and supervisors also need a break. Having the opportunity we have been 6 supervisors both last year and this year, and gives the opportunity to cover more games at the time and also get different input. Now, I don't know what you other guys are telling, but we have different focus areas, and it's also visible when we review games on film and when we talk to people. So it's a great way to have multiple eyes on you, and development in a safe and difficult environment at the same time.
Definitely. And I think, you spoke about the clinic in Pinto at the 2015 European Championships, as I mentioned earlier. That was my first ever tournament. And I think it set such a high bar for this being my first one. And we had that clinic for a whole day, wasn't it? Where we just talked through situations, and it really put, I think, all of us in a really good place in terms of what we were going to do on the field. Still always going to be like bits and pieces that need fixing, and that's where the supervision comes in, isn't it? And being able to have that immediate feedback, someone watching you and being able to say, you did this well, you did this well, you could improve this. And I think, as you say, giving that access to officials at all sorts of stages in their career is just so beneficial for them. And yeah, it's something, like I said, I've been involved in the last 2 years, being one of the supervisors, presenting at the clinic as well. And it's also, I think it's so rewarding for us guys as well. It's almost, I think I've spoken about it before, where it's like, I realize what it's like to be a coach now, and why being a coach is rewarding when you watch someone and you say, all right, you did this well, have you thought about improving this? And then perhaps you supervise their game later in the day and watch their officiating, and you see that they've put into practice the feedback that you've given them. And it's just so rewarding to be able to see that in happens. And I do imagine that's what it's like as a coach when you're, kind of talking to players. So, I mean, the flip side of that, I guess, as well, is that being a supervisor can be a little bit, let's not say frustrating, but when you know how something should be done and you can't really step in, that is always a little bit of a challenge as well, isn't it? When you're coaching games and giving feedback on them.
Yeah, that's always the difficult part, but I've been a coach in chess previously, and it's just the same. Even worse with chess, because at least here, at least in Copenhagen Bowl, is okay. Errors happens, is not your mistake, a team losing, as then they could have done better during the game.
So, yeah, to sort of talking, you've given of the why. What sort of stuff goes into actually organizing this? What things are you thinking about? How are you planning out what's going to happen with it? I can imagine there's quite a lot on that kind of sort of admin side of things, and a lot of, I know how hard you have to work to organize this. So can you kind of give us a little sort of peek behind the curtain as to what all that organization, what you're having to sort out, when you're having to fix stuff up and everything?
The most important part is having a great tournament to make the practical games next to. So having Copenhagen Bowl is busy for me because I'm also organizing that tournament together with 2 others. So else is about having a venue both for hotel, so there's a good place to sleep, and a venue for the theoretical session on the Friday. And having a good place and having low cost, that's the difficult part, especially in Copenhagen.
Yeah, of course. I was surprisingly cheap. I was actually shocked how cheap some bits of it were, because you go to Scandinavia and you expect to be remortgaging to buy a beer, but I was pleasantly surprised at times in Copenhagen. So I will give it to you that it's not actually as bad as I thought it was going to
But
be.
that's the biggest kind of issue. That's the making the cost, because it's unfortunately not IFAF supported yet. We are trying to set a standard, and hopefully we can have a great dialogue with IFAF and making sure it's setting the standard for how it should be also on other continents, because it's a long travel.
Exactly, because this is a model that you would hope could be replicated a kind of around the world. And then you can almost imagine that, when we come to continental championship, IFAF continental championships and world championships, because people from around the world have been doing the same sort of thing, that we can drive some consistency there from country to country, because that is one of the big challenges both of us know very well about, is coming to these tournaments and there being so many different ways of officiating and how certain stuff gets called, and you spend that first day of that international tournament just trying to standardize things, don't you?
The biggest point of emphasis in a tournament is trying to get the consistency. And of course, there will not be 100%, but making it as minor as possible is the key in having a good tournament for the teams.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, the main thing that we're looking to do is deliver a good product for the teams, isn't it? They travel over, they spend their hard-earned money on entering the tournament, and we want to make sure that we give them just the best possible experience that's safe, that's fair, and the officiating isn't intruding
Yeah,
too
and
much
it's
on that.
predictable, if you can use that word.
Predictable is a fantastic word. Yeah, and I think that's the thing that people want from officiating. We know that coaches and players aren't necessarily going to agree with every call that we make. I think that's a given. It's sport. That's what happens, isn't it? But if we can at least be predictable with how we call stuff, it puts us in a much better position to explain those decisions to players and coaches, and for them to kind of understand. They might not necessarily like it, but understand why we kind of called something a certain way.
And if we are predictable, then it's also easy to say, okay, they say, we had the same situation in the other game, and then it's easy to tell them, I don't know the other game, but here was the factors that it was illegal contact offense instead of defense, for instance.
My absolute favorite thing to do is when you've had a call go one way in a game and then it goes against the other team later in it. I said it was exactly the same as the one earlier and you didn't complain about that one. So being able to be consistent with that is just so important to what we're trying to achieve. Something you kind of briefly alluded to, and maybe you would like to sort of expand on now. What are your plans for the clinic in the future? Where do you kind of see it going? What would you like to develop it into? You know, take those next steps with it.
Trying to set a standard, hopefully getting more than it's just a clinic clinic delivered by IFAF technical approved officials. It will be I wanted to have higher emphasis, so it's also more likely that all federations can fund or support officials coming.
Yeah.
You can.
So it's almost like you want that official recognition, which means so much to the tournament, wouldn't it? And make it a more attractive proposition to federations if they want to send officials over to it and actually fund those officials to go instead of it being self-funded by the officials. So I guess that's what you're looking to achieve in the future.
Actually, the funding is the most key. Making it cheaper for the officials' own wallet to pay. This year, I think it was 235 euros. Beside traveling to Copenhagen, it will be nice to get it even lower.
Yeah, and it does sound, expensive, but you do also get quite a lot bang for your buck, or however you want to describe it, in terms of the quality of the feedback you get, the sessions that we run as well. So it would be, I think that is always going to be a challenge, and you don't want it to be people to be priced out, but I think that's also, the nature of it at the moment is that unfortunately it does have to be self-funded. So you can try and minimize those costs as much as possible, but there might always be a certain amount that have to be something that's going to be put in by the officials themselves as well. But that is interesting, and I think that making it more accessible and then also making it more official almost are two very noble goals for the sort of project as a whole.
And if you compared like the 235 euros, it's difficult to eat and sleep in Copenhagen for the same price. It's covered. That's what it's covering. It's just food and a hotel. Yeah. But also having that we can be. I hope to have more supervisors next year, so we can have even more feedback and. Hopefully having that we also can have full crews in the elite games at least, and hopefully also other games where you can really have some of the top level games where you can be tested and get out of your comfort zone. Because if you look at the top 8 from this year, it's just like, was it 6 teams from national team programs, the best Italian team as far as I know. Yeah, Waldorf is the European champions for club teams, so it's the top teams.
Yeah, and I guess getting experience in working in crews of 4 as well is great for the officials. That might not be something they get too much experience of at home. So again, that's another one of those ones that I think is a really a good thing to be looking to sort of introduce in more, at least introduce more and more of it for the tournament as well, because it just provides such a good learning experience and opportunity for the officials themselves. So obviously you have the clinic that runs on the Friday, all sorts of sessions covering a wide variety of different topics. Can you pick some, obviously the clinic's been running 2 years now. Can you pick some favorite sessions that you've seen in that time that you thought particularly this is going to be really, really useful for our officials? That's not no pressure from me to say you have to pick mine. I want you to be 100% honest, Claes.
Yeah, of course we have the general knowledge of the positions. That's really important. But I will say Cedric's presentation from this year in conflict, how to handle conflicts and de-escalate and how not to escalate them. That's my favorite presentations from these 2 years.
I completely agree. We had a session all about conflict de-escalation and how to manage situations, delivered by Cedric, who I will hopefully have as a guest on one day, who is the head of officiating in France, also works as a social worker. So there's a lot of transfer between those sort of skills that he requires in his job and how those can be applied to dealing with the conflict that we see on the field. And it was really a really good, interesting session and learning about how we can take those skills and use them on sort of coaches and players and calm everything down a little bit, I think would be the nicest way of putting it. So, we've talked about the sort of clinic, very much your sort of baby almost, and something that you've built up and developed and had sort of blossom into this really fantastic project. I just want to move back to you almost a little bit. Something both you and I do a huge amount of is video review. We've both been massively involved in the project that was run for the 2024 Worlds, where we were looking to review as many of the games as possible. Can you sort of talk a little bit about why you enjoy reviewing games, what you get from it, and just to give us a bit more insight into that?
You can say it actually goes back. I remember, was that in 23, I was sitting first NFL Sunday, and instead of watching NFL, I was actually looking at the clips from the British Championship in flag football, because it was interesting to find those funny situations or interesting clips with the fouls or just also great plays. It's just says how my focus has been moving from starting watching NFL many years ago to actually rather wanting to see amateur flag football from a foreign country just for the entertainment and the interest.
You were giving me live feedback, because I could feel my watch buzzing every time I got a message from you while I was actually on the field officiating. And while I love being reviewed and getting that feedback, I feel like getting it live might just be a little bit of a step too far. That's slightly too intense. But no, I know exactly what you mean. I genuinely get so much enjoyment out of just watching games and understanding weird kind of situations that happen and looking at calls and analyzing those sort of calls. It's very much something that I think I massively enjoy, but I also know how beneficial it is for every official who kind of receives one of these reviews, because you don't often get that feedback and you don't get the chance for someone to really analyze your performance. So I think, very much we both kind of enjoy it for the same sort of reasons there. And it's similar to, why you're kind of organizing that clinic as well. You're trying to give people that, give them the opportunity to kind of receive that feedback and get something back from it and give them something that they can take into their officiating moving forwards as well.
But yes, it's just giving to give the feedback, and you also learn by giving. It's nice to see the development. One key factor, and I remember, again, I can go back to Magnus, him saying, as a player, who do you rather want to be officiated by? Someone who stands and just look down in his phone, or someone who actually shows interest in the game and shows just a small part of passion? There's a huge difference as a player, and then we can come back to the hustling, as Scott mentioned. from last episode, but it's just showing if you're hustling just slightly, you show an engagement that is a little bit higher than just standing there and have to officiate a game because you are on a break.
Yeah, I genuinely do think that if players and coaches realize that we're enjoying ourselves on the field and we're not just there as a chore, like they understand it a bit more, and I think they're a bit more kind of accepting when they realize, oh yeah, they're not just here to because they have to be. They're here because they're enjoying what they're doing, and they're bringing that kind of enthusiasm and that love of the game into their officiating as well. So it helps provide a really sort of good dynamic and a kind of build that relationship with them, because they can see that, and they can see that you're engaged in the game, and they feed off that as well, I think, as well.
Yeah, I can use an example from when I went to the USA to officiate the US flag rolls. It was also at some point, many of them are talking about the officials is just there to get a paycheck. Of course, it's not true, especially not traveling that far for
It was
all Americans. It's just I traveled more than the others, but it was also, I remember at some point it was just like, oh, you have a funny accent. Where are you from? Denmark, Europe. You have traveled all this way to officiate? Yeah, like it's also like showing, then they trust you a little bit more, kind of, that you're showing engagement and you're just not standing there to
collect
because you have to, but you actually want to and enjoy yourself. And it can help you when you are doing not that well, but because we all have bad games.
Yeah, of course. So speaking about enjoying yourself, you've obviously had a long and illustrious career internationally, nationally as well. Can you pick some sort of specific examples within your officiating career that you kind of view as your highlights, those moments that have really kind of stood out and stick with you?
It will be easy to go back to the father podcast of this show and listen to you. I think it was 2 years ago. So we are going to Macarena Stadium in Panama 2018.
Oh, this is the story he's going to tell, isn't it? Oh, I know where this is going. Go on then, Claes. Tell the lovely people what you did to Jed.
We were officiating the Women's World Championship final. It was Panama as host and defending world champions against the US women. And I think it was the center making an illegal contact offense, and I even think it was on a touchdown. And yeah, I saw it. I threw my flag as a field judge, and I got to tell Jet that we had an illegal contact offense. And Jet had to announce it.
Those Panamanian fans weren't happy, were they?
And at that moment where you announce it, I think it's one of the few moments where I have spaced out and just listened to the more than 2,000 people on the stands just booing at that announcement. It was just like, I understand why soccer players love all those focus from all those cheering. Just like it gave some adrenaline that, it's not something you want to have like constantly as an official, but it's just like it
was I mean, the clip is brilliant because I like to think that I'm normally pretty kind of level, calm on the field, but you see, us talking in the middle of the field, and then you see my face like, oh no, I've got to announce this to this crowd who are not going to be particularly pleased about it, and they weren't particularly pleased about it. But I think that is also, I think one of what I've spoken about before is one of my favorite experiences from that tournament was doing Panama, Mexico women in the semi-finals, and you've obviously got two Latin American teams there. It's very much a rowdy kind of crowd. It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I think that was a bit of that tournament. The highlight for it for me in general was the fact that any game involving the home team, to be honest, there was a good traveling contingent of Mexican fans there as well. All these games, they had a really good atmosphere. It was nice for us to be as officials to be put into that high pressure environment with a lot of people on the sidelines making a lot of noise, because I think it's something that we don't particularly get a lot, especially here in Europe, I think. I mean, I haven't done that many games in front of not hostile, but sort of, let's say, rowdy kind of crowds. And it's a different experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. There's a big difference on having a crowd and just having a coach complaining.
Yeah, exactly. I can drown out one or two voices. It gets a little bit harder when it's 2,000 voices.
But I actually also have a other funny one from, again, you are a referee at the Big Bowl final when I was there in 19. I had a guy who first made illegal contact, and I cannot remember what he said afterwards, but that was not something you want to hear on the field. And I politely asked him to repeat it. And he was so friendly that he repeated it, and I threw my second flag. And I still have a now former teammate, but playing at another team, also loved, because I think he was standing just behind me, because everyone was around the field for the finals at Big Bowl. And he also loved to say, like, because I just had it so calm, and like ask him, will repeat it? And yeah,
He gave him
it's
his
one of the
chance to.
easiest and nicest flags to throw.
Yeah, it is good when they make it easy for us, isn't it? It kind of talks about kind of highlights. Something that I asked Scott last time was, games perhaps have gone a little bit wrong. Not necessarily lowlights, but those sort of ones that we view as learning experiences, because we all have them as officials, don't we? We all have specific games that stick in our minds as like, oh, that was one that didn't go like I wanted it to. What can I learn from it? Can you talk about any ones like that you've got?
I got two. I had the co-ed highest level semi-final, also the final afterwards, in Tampa at the USA flag walls, and I got a little bit nervous. I was field judge, so I was stepping the 7 yards, and I don't know why I got like too humble to blow the play dead, because the referee blew it ready before I was ready, and they snapped it, and the sideline was not happy.
No,
they were complaining a lot because it ended in a touchdown, and yeah, we cannot call it back.
The universe will always make sure that it's on those plays. It's never one that just lands incomplete, is it? When if you're field judging, you weren't 7 and the defense are upset, it's never one that just lands harmlessly incomplete. It's always one that then goes for a touchdown, isn't it?
Yeah, luckily for me, it was I was on the sideline of the team that got robbed, if you can say that, and I had Vanita Kraus calming them down. I had some good talks with her 1 month prior in Israel to the World Championship.
Yeah.
So she knew that, okay, was an honest mistake. They were not happy. Definitely not happy.
Of course.
It also helped me that they ended up scoring on the next drive and won the game by that touchdown. But it was like, shit, that was not good. But yeah, luckily for me, I had a reputation saving me a little bit, but it was out of my comfort zone, if you can say that. It's something you have to do to also develop.
Absolutely.
And the other one was actually close by. It was in instead of Tampa, we were in Miami.
Yeah.
I had a evening game at the World Championship in 2016, USA Israel men.
Yeah, and that was such a hard day, wasn't it? Because I'm stealing Claes' story here, but we were both there, and we had started. We had all that rain. We had all gone back to the hotels, and we got dragged back, didn't we, for the games in the evening?
Yeah, I think it must have been day 1. I think.
Yeah,
it was on the normal fields. Yeah, if you ask Tim, I think he could mention the game as well. He was the referee, and I believe I was field judge. I cannot remember who the 2 other officials were, but we lost completely control of the game. there was so many illegal contact. I believe we didn't call, and it was both sided. There was some unsportsmanlike we didn't call, and the Americans were furious, and they actually also apologized the day after. But yeah,
I think it was only a one-score game as well, wasn't it? It was a close game, 1-point game. Yeah, so it was an eventful
back
one.
and forth.
Yeah, and I think it was. I vaguely remember. I think it might have been one of the only games left being played at the time as well. So you had a bit of an audience, and it's always those sort of ones. But it wasn't ideal, was it? I mean, it was a very fractured day, and it's hard for us as officials to deliver our best when you're kind of being thrown around like that. We had to stop because of the lightning and the rain, and then we had to come back at 10 p.m. or whatever it was. It seems to be that these World Championships do have crazy weather and affecting things because we then had Jerusalem in 2021, didn't we, where we were officiating at midnight because they had to close all the fields the following day. So it does feel like the universe is out a little bit to kind of screw over these World Championships.
It was the same in 14 in Grosseto. That was also playing out late and thunder breaks. But I will not say it was an excuse in 16 as I recall it. I don't think I was tired or something. It was just, a game we just did not manage well, or we got off, or the players were in a bad situation and we didn't control them. I use it as a benchmark of a game I will love to officiate again.
Yeah.
And see if it gets out of control. But you cannot replicate a high intensity game that goes wrong.
It's a very specific set of circumstances that bring it about, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you get that situation again, if you do it in the best way, then you will not get it again because then you will have control of the game. So it's just
Absolutely.
I want to have a game that's going out of control, but I get control of it. But it's like,
yeah, but
so
now you wouldn't let it get to that point in the first place anyway.
No. Hopefully not. Sometimes you cannot stop the players, but
sometimes they do what they want to do, and we kind of have to bring them back down again, don't we?
But I don't think it will be an issue ever in an IFF tournament because the teams are so organized and
disciplined as well. Yeah. So brings us to our final question. This is similar to one that I asked Scott last time. I'm going to ask it in a different way to you. I'm going to give you, solely you, Claes, the keys to the IFAF rulebook, flag football rulebook. And I'm going to say to you, what is the first change you're making? Now that you are in charge, it's King Claes, all down to you. What's the first change that you're going to make in the flag rulebook?
Good question. I would actually go first one that will have no effect would be remove the yardage from illegal run play. Make it loss of down because that's such a small one and it annoys me that we ended up putting both yardage and loss of down.
That's such a dull one. Like, come on, give us something controversial here. Is there a more controversial one you want to go for as well? I'll give you two if your second one is a bit more edgy.
I would love to have, again, from the US flag rulebook, that you can decline yardage in a penalty. That's the rule I want to change the most that is not existing at the moment.
Yeah, because, and you do see it more and more, don't you, that when the offense gets in a second and short situation, that the defense will almost think, oh, well, it's kind of beneficial for us to give away a 5-yard penalty here and make them have the first and goal from long out, as opposed to second and short where they can take some shots and then still have that safety net. And I know it's something that, you and I have talked about quite a lot in the past, haven't we, about why it would be a really good addition. Because at the moment we're in an awkward situation, aren't we, where we could be calling it, if teams deliberately fouling to try and gain an advantage, we could be calling it illegal tactics, but we don't necessarily have that spelled out in the rules to back us up. And all of this would be fixed, wouldn't it, if a team could accept a replay of down, but not have to enforce the yardage on the penalty.
Exactly. And there's also other situations. It's not just offense that can decline yardage. I
Yeah.
also have situations where defense will be interested in it, but I will keep them for myself in case I need it.
You don't want to spread that one too widely. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. So I just want to say a massive sort of thank you to you, Claes, for giving up your time this evening and talking to us a little bit. For anyone listening who is interested in developing their officiating, the Copenhagen Bowl do you have dates for 2026?
Yeah, it will be for the officiating clinic. It will be the 22nd of May to the 24th of May. And then those who want to play will be 23rd and 24th of May. We will also make we will make it public also quite soon, but I think this will beat it.
Yeah, get those dates in your diaries and watch out on the Copenhagen Bowl sort of social media channels to keep an eye out for when kind of sign up for it. Like I said, it's something that I've worked at the last 2 years, and I think it's an absolutely fantastic thing to be a kind of a part of. Yeah, thank you very much, Claes, and have a fantastic rest of your evening. Thank you to everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.